okay? But the Catholic Church, by instituting the, I forget what they call it now, but the system, the serf system, okay, where they basically created a bunch of illiterates, and that these illiterates are totally subject to the Catholic Church, okay, and they forbade people from actually owning copies of the Bible, okay, and so the main thrust of the Catholic Church in its early days was to keep people ignorant, to keep people illiterate, because look, who wrote the Bible? Israelites.
So it sounds like that this. So it sounds like that this Anglo-Saxon mission and the Bank of England, where they met, is in league with the Vatican.
That's
the
right.
Same time to keep everybody.
They're definitely in league today. That it wasn't always the case, and let me get to that, because the Catholic Church, in its most powerful days, were between 800 A.D. and 1800 A.D. It was during that time that the Catholic Church prosecuted the Inquisition and started taking over Europe, and had the arrangement with the various kings and queens of Europe that the Pope would crown all these kings and queens. Okay, that's the Holy Roman Empire. Okay, the Holy Roman Empire lasted 1,000 years. Charlemagne was the first one to be crowned by a pope in 800 A.D., and then the last emperor to be crowned by a pope was whoever the guy was before Napoleon. I forget who that guy's name was. But when it was time for Napoleon to be crowned pope, what he did was the Pope was getting ready to put the crown on his head. This is around 1805, something like that, or maybe 1798. I forget the exact year. Mm-hmm. But there was a ceremony at Notre Dame in Paris. Okay, the Pope was going to put the crown on Napoleon's head. But before the Pope could do that, Napoleon grabbed the crown out of his hands and crowned himself. Okay.
Oh, really?
So, yes, that put the end to the Holy Roman Empire, okay? That symbolized the end of the Holy Roman Empire, and the popes no longer crowned any emperors after that, okay? So that was the heyday of the Catholic Church. During this heyday, there was great animosity between Christians and Jews. As everybody should remember, the Jews were confined to ghettos in mainland Europe. And the reason for that was to prevent them from engaging in money lending and getting Christians into debt and robbing these Christians of their property via debt and foreclosure. That's why the Jews were confined to ghettos. Okay. Wow. And so, so they were allowed out of the ghettos during the day to, go about their business. But at night they had to return to the ghetto, and the ghetto was locked up with a chain. Okay. Yeah, right. And then it was during the Napoleonic Wars that the various Jewish communities in Germany and other places bribed the forces, the soldiers of Napoleon, to give them equal rights with the German citizens. Okay, and so I have documents that show they actually, they just came out and paid the French army to let them out of the ghettos, okay, and give them equal rights with the Germans, the Christians, okay? And so this was the releasing of Satan from the bottomless pit. And what you had as a result of that was international banking. Because during this time, banking, usury, was forbidden.
So now when did this occur?
This occurred during the Napoleonic Wars.
So in the
Satan
1800s.
was let out of the bottomless pit during the Napoleonic Wars. And that's when the House of Rothschild became the dominant force in Europe by being the moneylenders to all of the nations of Europe, okay? And and then the usurers, okay? There was never any such massive, broad-scale money lending at any time previous except in ancient Babylon. And the book of Revelation clearly tells us that the eighth beast, Mystery Babylon, is the third beast, Babylon reborn. Okay? So ancient Babylon had this money lending system that has been duplicated by the House of Rothschild, the eighth beast. So the Catholic Church was the sixth beast, Napoleon was the seventh beast, and Mystery Babylon the House of Rothschild, the international banking mafia, is the eighth beast, okay? And anybody who wants to verify this, just read Revelation chapters 18 and 19, in which the international, how does it put it, the world empire of merchants, as it is explained in those two chapters, comes into being. Now, if you look at world commerce today, who's it run by? And is it not a world empire of merchants?
Yep.
It's not nations, it's merchants who rule the planet. Okay? Anybody who thinks that the nations rule the planet is kidding himself. It's the bankers who rule the planet.
We got a big argument about whether or not the Vatican's running all this stuff.
The Vatican is not running this. The Vatican is part of it, okay, because Napoleon overthrew the Vatican. He conquered the Papal States, and he actually imprisoned the Pope. But the Catholic Church itself was not destroyed. Its military might was taken away from it, and it has never recovered that military might and never will, okay? But the eighth beast is clearly the House of Rothschild, and the House of Rothschild took over the Vatican Bank, has controlled the finances of the Vatican. I forget year that was. That was also in the late 1800s, okay? And so the Vatican has been infiltrated by the Freemasons. The Freemasons were an arm of the Illuminati, which is a Jewish Rothschild institution. Okay,
and so I know that the Rothschilds just made it a contract to do banking in China. So they're now in China.
Right. So what the Rothschilds do is they create front organizations such as this Anglo-Saxon blah, 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 and the Anglo-American Corporation, blah, 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 and the Catholic Church, they're all fronts for the Rothschilds. It's the Rothschilds that control the world economy, not the Vatican. The Vatican doesn't have any money. The Vatican is going broke. It's the Rothschilds who control the world's finances, not the Catholic Church.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Right? So that's the reality. That's the reality. You have to follow the money.
Now, where is the Rothschilds at today? Where are they?
Well, they're located in London. Oh. Their headquarters is the city within the city of London. There's a passage in the book of Revelation, I believe it's Revelation chapter 17, that talks about the great city will be divided into three parts. Okay? Those three parts are the city within the city. That's the banking district of the city of London, which is an independent country. It's not controlled by the city of London. Okay?
Right.
That's Rothschild home territory. Then you have the Vatican, which is an independent country. Okay? And you have Washington, D.C., which is also an independent country. We have these three tiny little pockets of corruption from which the world is controlled. Okay?
Wow.
The great city was divided into three parts. That's what the Bible said.
So that's why we're hearing so much about a world monetary system coming online or wanting to be put online.
Yeah, now, in addition to the world government, which the Rothschilds are promoting, and the world economy and the world court, they want a one world religion, too, which we referenced at the beginning of the show. And that this is syncretism, which means you blend all the world's religions together, disregarding the contradictions they have against one another. And it doesn't really matter if these religions are fighting against each other. As long as people are fighting against each other and you're financing both sides, you're the winner. Okay? And that's how the Rothschilds have operated since 1815.
So I guess you'd have to be pathological to think this is really going to be beneficial to you. Right. Here you are destroying some of the most productive countries in the entire world.
Right. In order to grab power, yes.
Yeah. Now, so what would their thinking have to be, and what kind of thoughts do they have? I mean,
this brings us to the earlier question about why did God put Adam and Eve in the garden? Okay. It's directly related to that question. Okay. The reason why God created Adam and Eve was to dethrone the fallen angels that were already here. Okay. He breathed the breath of life into Adam and Eve, which gave them the power of the Holy Spirit. In Hebrew, it's called the Shekinah glory. Okay? So he breathed into them the Shekinah glory, which made them actually